Hi, this is Nicole. I serve as one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. Today I wanted to discuss how the modern education system is failing today's generation. This is the second video in a multi-part series on today's education system. Perhaps one of the most problematic area is what we call the technology trap. The integration of technology into education has been hailed as a solution to many of the system's problems, but in practice, it has often exacerbated existing issues while creating new ones. The promise of educational technology, personalized learning, increased engagement, and improved outcomes has frequently failed to materialize, while the unintended consequences have been significant. One of the most problematic aspects of educational technology is its role in facilitating academic dishonesty. As discussed earlier, companies like Chegg have built entire business models around using technology to help students cheat. But the problem goes deeper than dedicated cheating services. The internet itself has made it easier than ever for students to find pre-written essays, copy answers to homework problems, or use AI tools to generate assignments. While technology has made information more accessible, it has also made intellectual laziness more tempting. The shift to digital learning platforms has also created new problems. Many schools and universities have adopted expensive learning management systems and digital textbooks that often provide inferior educational experiences compared to their traditional counterparts. Studies have shown that students often learn less from digital texts than from printed ones, particularly when it comes to complex material. The constant distractions of digital devices, notifications, social media, and the temptation to multitask further undermine learning. The COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the shift to remote and hybrid learning, with disastrous results for many students. The sudden transition to online education exposed the deep inequalities in access to technology and highlighted the limitations of digital learning, particularly for younger students and those with special needs. Learning loss during this period has been substantial, with some estimates suggesting that students lost months or even years of educational progress. Even in normal times, the emphasis on educational technology often comes at the expense of more effective teaching methods. Schools spend billions on devices, software, and infrastructure while neglecting fundamentals like teacher training, reasonable class sizes, and adequate support for struggling students. The technology trap creates a vicious cycle. Poor educational outcomes lead to calls for more technology, which further distracts from the fundamental issues affecting educational quality. Perhaps most troublingly, the increasing reliance on educational technology is changing how students think and learn. The constant availability of instant answers reduces the need for memorization and mental calculation. The preference for digital over print reading may be affecting students' ability to engage in deep, sustained reading. The habit of jumping between multiple digital tasks may be undermining the development of focused attention. These changes in cognitive habits have profound implications for students' intellectual development and their ability to engage in the kind of deep thinking that education should foster. Another area where we see problems is the decline of teacher authority and expertise. A crucial but often overlooked problem in modern education is the systematic erosion of teacher authority and expertise. The traditional model of education, which positioned teachers as knowledgeable authorities who transmitted accumulated cultural and scientific knowledge to students, has been replaced by models that minimize the teacher's role as experts and maximize their role as facilitator or guide. By the time students reach university, this activity training reaches its zenith. Many colleges and universities now offer majors and minors in social justice, activism, or similar fields that essentially professionalize protest. These programs teach students how to organize campaigns, frame narratives, and apply pressure on institutions to achieve political goals. They are less academic programs than training grounds for political activism, complete with internships at activist organizations and guidance on pursuing careers in the protest industry. The consequences of this professionalization of protest are profound. It transforms students from learners into activists, from seekers of truth into advocates for causes. It prioritizes political action over intellectual understanding, teaching students how to change the world before they understand how the world works. Perhaps most troublingly, it creates a generation of students who view every issue through a political lens, reducing complex realities to simplistic narratives of oppression and resistance. This activist orientation also fundamentally alters the relationship between students and educational institutions. Rather than seeing themselves as members of a learning community, students increasingly view themselves as political actors who must pressure their institutions to adopt particular ideological positions. This creates an adversarial dynamic that undermines the collaborative nature of education and transforms campuses into political battlegrounds rather than spaces for intellectual exploration. The next area I want to explore is the administrative bloat and mission creep. While much attention has been focused on curricular and pedagogical issues, another significant problem plaguing modern education is the explosive growth of administrative bureaucracy and the corresponding mission creep that has diverted educational institutions from their core purpose. Over the past few decades, colleges and universities have seen a dramatic increase in administrative positions, far outpacing the growth in faculty positions. These new administrative roles often focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion, student wellness, sustainability, and various other initiatives that, while potentially valuable, are peripheral to the core educational mission. The result is an increasingly top-heavy institutional structure that consumes resources that could otherwise be devoted to teaching and research. This administrative bloat has significant financial implications. The growth in administrative positions has been a major driver of the skyrocketing cost of higher education, contributing to the student debt crisis that burdens millions of graduates. Students and their families are paying more for an education that delivers less in terms of actual learning, as a larger share of resources is diverted to administrative functions rather than academic ones. Beyond the financial implications, this administrative expansion has transformed the culture of educational institutions. The increasing influence of non-academic administrators has shifted institutional priorities away from academic excellence toward metrics of diversity, wellness, and social justice. Faculty find themselves subject to increasing bureaucratic oversight and pressure to conform to institutional priorities that may have little to do with educational quality. This shift reflects broader cultural changes in attitudes toward authority and expertise. In an era of instant information access and widespread skepticism toward institutions, the idea that teachers possess special knowledge worthy of transmission has fallen out of favor. Instead, teachers are increasingly expected to be facilitators who guide students as they construct their own understanding, rather than experts who provide correct answers and established knowledge. While there is value in student-centered learning, the extreme version of this approach has serious drawbacks. When teachers position themselves primarily as facilitators rather than experts, they abdicate their responsibility to correct student misconceptions and provide accurate information. This is particularly problematic in subjects like science and history, where there are established facts and methodologies that students need to learn. The constructivist approach, taken to its logical extreme, suggests that all perspectives are equally valid, which is fundamentally at odds with the reality of expertise and knowledge. The decline of teacher authority is also evident in the increasing power of student evaluations in determining teaching practices. In both K-12 and higher education, student feedback, often collected through surveys and evaluations, plays an increasingly influential role in shaping teaching methods and even determining employment outcomes. While student feedback can be valuable, over-reliance on it creates perverse incentives. Teachers may feel pressured to make courses easier, more entertaining, or less intellectually challenging to receive positive evaluations, rather than maintaining rigorous standards that might result in temporary student discomfort or lower satisfaction scores. This problem is particularly acute in higher education, where adjunct professors often depend on positive student evaluations for continued employment. The result is a phenomenon known as grade inflation, where A's become the most common grade awarded, diminishing the value of academic achievement and creating a false sense of competence among students. When everyone is above average, the very concept of excellence becomes meaningless. The erosion of teacher expertise is also fueled by the increasing prevalence of scripted curricula and standardized teaching methods. In an effort to ensure consistency and accountability, many school districts have adopted highly structured curricula that specify exactly what teachers should say and do in the classroom. While this approach may help ensure that all students cover the same material, it also undermines teachers' professional autonomy and expertise. Teachers become technicians implementing someone else's vision rather than professionals making informed decisions based on their knowledge of students and subject matter. This de-killing of the teaching profession has serious consequences for educational quality. When teachers are treated as interchangeable parts in an educational machine rather than skilled professionals, it diminishes the profession's attractiveness and leads to higher turnover rates. The most talented and knowledgeable teachers may leave the profession in frustration, while those who remain may become increasingly disengaged or burned out. The decline of teacher authority also manifests in classroom management challenges. When teachers are not recognized as legitimate authorities, maintaining order and creating a productive learning environment becomes increasingly difficult. Discipline problems that were once handled through established teacher authority now require complex administrative interventions, further eroding the teacher's role and creating a cycle of escalating behavior problems. Perhaps the most fundamental problem plaguing modern education is its transformation from a public good and cultural inheritance into a commodity to be bought and sold. This commodification reflects broader economic trends but has particularly corrosive effects on educational institutions and practices. In higher education, this commodification is most evident in the treatment of students as consumers and education as a product. Universities and colleges increasingly market themselves like businesses, using sophisticated advertising campaigns to attract customers rather than students. The language of education has shifted from terms like learning, knowledge, and intellectual development to business jargon like value proposition, customer satisfaction, and return on investment. This consumer model of education has profound implications. When students are treated as consumers, they come to view education as something they purchase rather than something they earn through effort and engagement. They expect to be entertained, catered to, and given good grades in exchange for their tuition money. The relationship between student and institution becomes transactional rather than transformative, reducing education to a commercial exchange rather than an intellectual journey. The commodification of education is also evident in the proliferation of for-profit educational institutions, from K-12 charter schools to for-profit colleges and universities. While some of these institutions provide quality education, the profit motive creates inherent conflicts with educational goals. The pressure to maximize shareholder value can lead to cost-cutting measures that compromise educational quality, aggressive recruitment of unprepared students, and focus on programs with the highest profit margins rather than the greatest educational value. Even in non-profit educational institutions, business logic increasingly dominates decision-making. Programs are evaluated based on enrollment numbers and revenue generation rather than educational merit. Academic departments are merged or eliminated based on financial considerations rather than intellectual importance. Faculty hiring increasingly resembles corporate recruitment, with emphasis on branding and external funding potential rather than teaching excellence and scholarly achievement. The commodification of education extends to the curriculum itself. Courses and programs are increasingly designed to meet perceived market demands rather than to provide a broad, liberal education. The humanities and liberal arts, once the heart of higher education, are in decline as students flock to pre-professional programs that promise immediate employment returns. While practical education is valuable, the narrow focus on vocational training deprives students of the broad intellectual foundation that enables critical thinking, civic engagement, and lifelong learning. This consumer model also affects the nature of academic work itself. Research is increasingly evaluated in terms of its commercial potential rather than its intellectual contribution. The pressure to secure external funding and produce marketable research compromises academic freedom and distorts research priorities. Even basic research in fields like physics and mathematics is increasingly justified in terms of potential commercial applications rather than its inherent value to human knowledge. Thanks for watching. This concludes the second video in this series on issues with today's education system. To watch the other videos in this series, go to our rumble.com or youtubeb.com channels. To watch other videos like this one, you can go to our website at nehemiahreset.org, to our rumble.com or youtube.com channels. We publish new videos weekly. You can also sign up to receive our weekly new video list by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and sign up for our weekly newsletter. To help our channel, please like and subscribe so that more people can see these important videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day.
Are you looking for a limitless supply of insightful reads to expand your mind and transform your life? Look no further than Nehemiah Reset's ebook library, where knowledge meets inspiration at nehemiahreset.org ebook. Go there today to discover a wealth of valuable resources to help you on your personal and professional journey to build a biblical worldview. Learn more about the Bible and how culture is impacting your worldview. Again, the ebook library is located at nehemiahreset.org ebook. Hope to see you soon. My name is Andrew. I am one of the spokespersons for Nehemiah Reset. The prior video was sponsored by Nehemiah Reset, a 501c3. Our mission is to assist Christians in developing a biblical worldview as it pertains to relevant cultural and biblical issues. We seek to inform Christ's followers, equip them, and mobilize them in action to vote for their biblical values and actively engage in our We are also committed to help Christians and non-believers to develop a better biblical view. Nehemiah Reset produces videos and ebooks to assist members of the church in developing a biblical worldview when it comes to cultural issues. We produce videos on key topics like public school indoctrination, the woke agenda, sex education, equity and inclusion, climate change, immigration, religious freedom, and much, much more. To learn more about Nehemiah Reset or to watch our latest videos, go to our website at nehemiahreset.org or our rumble.com channel. We produce 2 to 3 videos every week. To get a weekly list of our latest videos, sign up for our weekly newsletter by going to nehemiahreset.org/email and subscribe. You can support our website by liking our videos, subscribing to our channels, or helping us reach more people through tax-exempt donations. Thanks for your help in growing God's kingdom and bringing more people to Christ. Thank you for your support and help. Come back again soon. Have a great day.